The LIFE project Save the Flyers has two main objectives. First, to re-establish a viable population of the red kite, a magnificent bird of prey that was common in central Italy until the 1970s. Second, to protect the bats which live in forest habitats, as well as those in cities and caves. Forest-dwelling bats are particularly threatened, because these are productive forests, and so harvesting also causes the loss of old tree trunks, which bats use for reproduction. So under the project, thousands of bat boxes will be installed in the forest. The beneficiary and coordinator of the Life Nature project Save the Flyers is the Amiata-Grossetano mountain community, in partnership with the Esino-Frasassi mountain community and Enel distribution. Co-financed by the European Commission, the project takes place in two project areas: the Amiata area in southern Tuscany and the Gola della Rossa and Frasassi Natural Park in the Marches.
L'area amiatina è un'area approssimativamente di circa 30.000 ettari.
The Amiata area covers around 30,000 hectares with three main project development areas. Monte Amiata, mainly forested, dominated by beech woods with sweet chestnuts on the lower slopes.
E nella parte inferiore da castagneti. E l'altra zona.
The second mountainous area is around Monte Penna, a nature reserve again dominated by beech, with some grassland areas.
E da zone di prateria. L'ultima zona, la terza.
The last project area is made up of Monte Labbro and the Upper Albania Valley. The northern part is made up of a limestone ridge with priority habitats. Fascinating grasslands with a wealth of different species, both animals and plants. The southern end is made up of a series of mid-sized hills through which the Albania River flows. Located in the mountains above Ancona, the Gola della Rossa and Frasassi Park is quite a hotspot of biodiversity in the central Apennines. In its 10,000 hectares of protected area, scientists have recorded over 1,500 species of plant, over 100 species of breeding birds, 29 species of reptiles and amphibians, more than 500 species of insects, 40 species of mammals. Outstandingly rich biodiversity.
Tra le specie di mammiferi è interessante perché è oggetto di questo progetto.
Among the mammals, of special interest for this project are the bats. The park holds 14 species, including the greater mouse-eared bat, with a few surprisingly large colonies. There can be 10 to 12,000 individuals during the nursery period. This makes it an important area that needs to be preserved for the future.
È un'importante area che deve essere conservata per il futuro.
Il libioreale è una specie molto bella.
A strikingly beautiful species, the red kite is easy to identify, with its colourful plumage and its tail forked like a swallow's. It's extremely agile in flight, hence the name red kite. Despite its wingspan, measuring about 1,70 m, it's very light, making it an outstanding flyer capable of spectacular aerobatics.
Con destrezza e riesce a fare delle evoluzioni anche spettacolari. Si riproduce solitamente costruendo un nido su alberi.
They generally build their nest in trees, though they will occasionally use rock, usually laying 2 to 3 eggs, so that they have 2 to 3 chicks per nest. The red kite is found throughout most of Europe, although in recent years it has had serious conservation problems in several countries.
Seri problemi di conservazione. In Italia è presente soprattutto
in Italy, it is found mainly in the south, where there are several hundred pairs.
Centinaia di coppie.
Una delle azioni principali del progetto Life
One of the main actions of the LIFE project Save the Flyers is to help the red kite to re-establish a viable population in central Italy. The red kite was present in the area until the 1960s, when electricity pylons began springing up at an alarming rate. Power lines posed such a danger to many birds, and this was combined with human persecution using poisoned bait and direct killing.
E questi motivi, questi fattori che hanno determinato poi l'estinzione della specie in questa area.
Although they originally led to the extinction of the red kite in this area, these factors have now decreased to such an extent that the situation looks quite favorable for red kite protection.
So
we decided under this project to move young birds from countries where red kites are still very common. Young born in other parts of Europe, especially in Corsica in Switzerland, in the canton of Fribourg. When they're about a month old, these juveniles are taken from their nests and brought to Cerm, the threatened birds of prey centre in the Amiata-Grossetano mountain community, where they'll stay for about 2 months.
Li vengono mantenuti per circa 2 mesi.
In these 2 months, they can get used to their new environment. When these young kites are around 3 months old, their aviary doors are opened and they're free to fly off.
Una volta liberati, vengono alimentati attraverso dei carnai, delle mangiatoie.
Once they've been released, the kites are fed daily at feeding points near their aviaries to compensate for the lack of parents, who would normally feed them in the first few months of life.
Normalmente per I primi mesi sostentano I giovani liberati.
E viene effettuato un monitoraggio di questi esemplari.
These juveniles are monitored. Firstly, we use a system of video surveillance of the 2 feeding stations located in the release area in the Cerm. And this enables us to verify and record the presence on a daily basis of the various birds that come here to feed.
Giornalmente la presenza dei vari esemplari che arrivano ad alimentarsi. Vedi, guarda, questo qui è uno senza.
Look, one without wing tags. It's a young one, so we presume it was born here last year, because an untagged young bird is unlikely to have arrived from elsewhere.
Di questi tempi.
Una volta liberati, abbiamo visto che si ambientano perfettamente.
After release, they settle perfectly in the release zone and come to the feeding station regularly for about a year, and then gradually free themselves from their dependence on the feeding station and begin to catch their food in the wild. The red kite has a very varied diet. It feeds on dead animals and hunts small mammals, including mice and voles, insects and even earthworms.
Una parte di questi giovani liberi reali vengono liberati anche.
Some of these young red kites are also released in the Gola della Rossa and Frasassi nature park. The procedure is the same. They're put into aviaries for about 2 months to get used to their surroundings, after which the aviary door is opened and they're free to fly off.
Liberati aprendo le voliere.
Vengono allevati fornendo cibo dalla parte.
While in captivity, their food is left at the back of the aviary so as to minimize contact with staff running the raptor center. This stops them from getting used to human company.
Quindi sono due punti, diciamo, di...
So there are two release points to enable a viable population to become established in central Italy: the Upper Albania Valley and the Gola della Rossa and Frasassi Nature Park. The first releases were in 2007, and monitoring has been carried out using various techniques. This monitoring has shown that the survival rate for these young released birds has been excellent.
Rispetto alla sopravvivenza di questi giovani liberati. Per poter seguire in maniera informata.
To get our information on all of the red kites that are released, we fit them with wing tags. These tags are made of plastic and have no effect on the bird's behavior. They cause no harm to the kites, but enable us to identify each individual.
Cioè non portano nessun danno a questi animali e che consentono a queste placche di poter identificare ogni singolo soggetto. Queste placche sono di colore...
These wing tags are blue, with white lettering, and like car license plates, they identify each individual kite. By monitoring the feeding station and by direct observation using binoculars and cameras with telephoto lenses, we can find out where the various individuals go.
È possibile identificare i singoli soggetti dove si spostano.
Un altro sistema che utilizziamo di monitoraggio è il radio tracking, quindi vengono...
Another monitoring system we use is radio tracking. Radio transmitters are fitted to the kites, which enables us to track their individual movements on special receivers. Their movements can be followed within a range of a few kilometers.
Alcuni chilometri. Questo è il tipo di radio che viene...
This is the kind of radio that's normally fitted to a young red kite. Each radio has its own signal, emitting a different frequency for each kite. Sensitive receivers show which area the kite can be found, but they're also useful if a kite dies, when a bird is stationary for more than 24 hours. That indicates either that the kite has died or that the radio has become detached.
È fermo da più di 24 ore, quindi dicono una probabile morte o la perdita della radio. Un altro tipo di radio che viene utilizzato...
Another type of radio used in the project is a satellite radio. These high-tech radios enable us to follow the red kites in their movements, even at long distances, via the Argos satellite system, which the radios connect to every 3 days.
Satellitare, con il quale le radio sono in collegamento ogni 3 giorni e che, essendo dotate di GPS...
They're equipped with GPS, and a computerized system shows their precise movements on a daily basis.
Giorno per giorno.
Un terzo dispositivo di localizzazione.
A third tracking device is a GPS data logger, which gathers information on the kite's position and activity, which is then uploaded to a fixed or portable receiving station.
Caricati ad una stazione ricevente fissa o portatile. Le radio vengono fornite dalla Facoltà di Scienze.
The radios are provided by the Faculty of Sciences at the University of Amsterdam, thanks to funding from Enel Distribution. A vital role in our monitoring is played by amateur ornithologists throughout Grosseto province, who let us know every time they see one of our kites, which is usually quite easy because of the wing tags we have fitted to the birds.
Un esemplare dei nostri e solitamente è abbastanza facile individuare gli esemplari liberati proprio per la presenza delle marche alari che utilizziamo. E in più l'attività di monitoraggio viene...
Monitoring is also carried out by young biologists and naturalists.
Ogni singolo soggetto, ogni singolo giovane viene identificato.
Each kite, every single young bird, can be specifically identified by its wing tags, but we also need to sex the kites. As the sexes have the same plumage, 3 breast feathers are taken from a kite and sent to the Department of Veterinary Medicine at Bari University to be sexed. This takes about a week. As young birds are randomly removed from the nest, we have to know what the ratio between males and females is. If we release only males or only females, the project can't go ahead. So far, luckily, given that the captures are random, things have gone according to plan, and the ratio is around 50%, half males and half females.
50% maschi, 50% femmine. Distribuzione, uno dei partner del progetto.
Enel Distribution, one of the partners in the Save the Flyers Life project, has the vital task of making the power lines safe in the Upper Albania Valley and in the Gola della Rossa and Frasassi Nature Park. Power lines need to be made safe because kites, or any other birds, which land on a 15,000-volt pylon, may be electrocuted and even killed.
Possono essere folgorati e morirvi. Per questo motivo,
For this reason, Enel Distribution, together with the European Commission, is at great expense making about 50 kilometers of power lines safe, using three main methods. The first is to isolate the 15,000-volt sections at the points where the birds find it easiest to land, which is the cable supports.
Gli animali più facilmente possono posarsi, cioè nei pali di sostegno.
A second method is to replace bare cable on the power lines with helicord, which is fully insulated cable. And the third system is to replace the cable supports on the pylons with so-called boxer supports, which keep the wires well away from any perching birds.
Quali allontanano i fili dagli eventuali posatoi degli uccelli.
During winter in the Upper Albania Valley, the spectacle produced by the red kites is even more breathtaking, because in addition to the reintroduced population, several dozen red kites from northern Europe overwinter in the area.
Naturalmente il successo del ripopolamento del nibbio reale.
Of course, the success of the red kite restocking program in central Italy will be assured by the knowledge that a breeding population has formed that can sustain itself without help from man and increase until it stabilizes. We hope to reach at least 50 to 60 pairs in central Italy.
Di poter raggiungere almeno le 50-60 coppie nell'Italia centrale.
Per la prima volta nel 2010 è stato...
The first nest built by Swiss kites released here in 2008 was discovered in 2010. And this is the first evidence that restocking is an effective policy.
Testimonianza del fatto che l'azione di ripopolamento, di restocking, è un'azione efficace. E questo ovviamente è di...
This is of course a good sign because in coming years many other kites that have been released will begin to breed.
Cominceranno a riprodursi. Un altro degli obiettivi basilari del progetto è quello di favorire la conservazione delle
Another key objective of the project is to promote the conservation of bat populations through three main actions.
Una è la regolamentazione.
One is to regulate access to the caves that hold significant populations of breeding and wintering bats.
Di chirotteri in riproduzione e di chirotteri in svernamento. Questa protezione dei chirotteri e dell'accesso alle grotte.
Gates will therefore be installed at the entrance to the caves, and a regulation will prevent unauthorized persons from entering the cave during sensitive periods, i.e. summer and winter.
L'ingresso di persone non qualificate all'interno delle cavità nei periodi sensibili, cioè nel periodo estivo e nel periodo invernale. Un'altra azione che verrà fatta.
Another action to promote bat conservation is to improve the quality of the grasslands, which are important hunting areas for bats. These grasslands are at risk due to encroachment by shrubs. A third action is to install artificial shelters.
Di vegetazione arbustiva. Una terza azione è quella di installare dei rifugi artificiali. Questi rifugi sono di due tipologie.
There are two types of shelter. The ones used mainly by forest bats in wooded areas known as bat boxes, positioned on large trees.
Si chiamano bat box e sono delle cassette che vengono installate su grandi alberi e queste cassette
Bats then use these boxes to breed or for overwintering. This action helps bats because woods are often not old enough to have trees big enough to provide shelter for bats. The bat boxes make up for the lack of natural cavities in old trees.
Quindi viene vicariata la presenza di queste cavità in alberi, cavità naturali in vecchi alberi con le cassette, con le bat box.
26,7?
Sì.
Gianna Dondini and Simone Vergari are carrying out a bat census in the project areas and are also monitoring the effectiveness of the actions implemented under the Life Save the Flyers project.
Per favorire invece i chirotteri, cosiddetti antropofili, cioè che vivono comunque a più
By contrast, to help urban bats, which live in close proximity with man, boxes known as bat boards will be attached to buildings. These activities, to help bats and to favour red kites, aim to involve the local population, and especially tourist facilities.
Cercando di coinvolgere la popolazione locale e in particolar modo anche le strutture turistiche, per cui viene fatta una...
So there is an intensive program of awareness-raising activities, involving, for example, farm homestay accommodation, which can help to spread the word about the LIFE project by distributing information to their guests, as well as helping bat conservation by installing bat boxes and making feeding stations for the red kite.
Delle cassette per chirotteri con la realizzazione di mangiatoie per il nibbio reale. E questo ovviamente è importante.
All of this, of course, is important because for tourist facilities, having red kites around especially can be an additional attraction for potential visitors to the area.
Per l'offerta turistica quindi del territorio.
Il programma prevede anche attività.
The program also includes environmental education, mainly, but not exclusively, aimed at schools. There are also programs, interventions and actions for ordinary citizens, for adults, to help spread the word that protecting these environments for future generations makes sense.
Future generazioni.
And it isn't true they get stuck in your hair, ever!